Well, it seemed surprising to me. It was 1969
Yes.
when the playgroup started.
My impression was that there had been work on it before then.
Yes, there
You know,
was.
money-raising things,
Yes.
very big jumble sale.
Yes, I remember we had an open meeting in church, and when we mooted the idea of having a play group, and there was a lot of talk and
Yes.
reaction, and I felt, because I'd finished teaching and Matthew had been born, that where was he going to go? I mean, what sort of
Yes.
activities was I going to
Self-interest,
provide
yeah.
for him? So there was a bit of self-interest in this, but also there wasn't anything else for young children to do, and I thought the church ought to be providing something.
Yes.
I remember, I think it was Mr. Cross, wasn't it, who was one of the leaders at the time?
Oh yes.
Yes, and we had an open meeting and he was very supportive. And then Janet Ward and I started to organise a mammoth jumble sale.
Yes, we had a lot of cooperation with that, didn't we?
Yes.
And we went around all of the local community,
Yes.
collecting carloads and carloads of jumble.
Yes, I remember two things about that. One wasn't nice and one was nice. The awful thing was that I encountered my first real dose of prejudice when I was collecting jumble. A lady rushed out of her house on one of the side roads down below
Oh, yes, I remember
and said, "Get back to your own country," and a whole stream of invective. It was awful, really.
Yeah.
It was my worst moment of my life almost, and I think I handled it fairly well. I said I was sorry she felt that way, but it was also at the time when Enoch Powell was
Yes,
quite often on the television and talking about
the
warning about
rivers of blood.
yes,
speech,
he was warning
yes.
about immigration and so on. So that wasn't a very nice experience, but it brought me back to reality, I think. Also, I had a nice thing happen. A lady offered me a beautiful black lace dress. She lived on College Road, a little way down the road from us, and she said, "You don't have to put it in the jumble," but she said, "I think it would look lovely on you." And I've still got it to this day. It's a lovely, lovely black lace dress with a little bodice and a little crossover coatee that goes over the top of it. And I wear it now to special occasions and feel very grand in it.
Yeah.
Of course, you've been here earlier, Ken.
Yes, actually, thinking over the last week or so about the 50-year celebration, and it occurred to me that I actually arrived in September, October, I can't quite remember which, 64. So, although I didn't realise it at the time, the church must have been celebrating its 25th anniversary shortly before I arrived. Or, as I say, I hadn't appreciated that at the time.
And you lived with Mrs. Perry?
Yes,
then?
when I first came, I lived with Mrs. Perry on Earlham Road.
The wife of the rector.
That's
Reverend
right.
Perry,
Yes.
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 And when I used to come, Mrs. Perry was always very kind, and once or twice she'd ask me to go down to 501 Earlham Road to collect the eggs. And of course we now live in
To the Bertrams.
501.
Yes.
And it's when I used to go and get the eggs, I'd go back to Kenneth and say, "Oh, it's a marvellous house. They've got an incredible garden," of what I could see of it. And it was always such a lovely family house, never dreaming that one day we'd live in it. And so we have lots of lovely memories.
That's right.
Did you join the choir initially?
Yes. In fact, my first memory of the church is coming to the church and then seeing the choir and listening to the choir, and observing, curiously, that there were more tenors in the choir than there were bass, which was quite against my experience from my home church. Yeah. Anyway, at the end of the service, I wandered up somewhat diffidently to Bill Martin, who was at the organ, and said, would he consider my joining the choir? And he asked me what I sang, and I said bass, and then, of course he said, yes, please do. So I went to a couple of practices. I wasn't always in Norwich for Sundays because I was more often than not visiting Enid, who is still back in Oxford. But my very first outing with the choir wasn't actually in the church choir stalls. It was in a coach going out to somewhere, I think it was North Walsham. So my first time actually singing with the choir not in practice, was at a concert, as I say, I think in North Walsham. It was a very, very happy choir, well, still is, of course, but it was quite a bit larger than it is today. Methsock is the other thing.
Yes,
that
Methsock,
I
yes.
might just mention, yes.
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 Right.
Yes, I arrived, as I've said, in 64, September, October 64, straight from the John Wesley Society in Oxford, with a lot of involvement with that, and was delighted to find that there was a Methsock in existence, although in its infancy, with Happy Hoppy, of course, the
Yes.
minister,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper.
Yes.
And so was involved in that straight away. I believe I'm right in saying that the Epworth room had been set up as a room partly to accommodate the students, and had been furnished and so on. And my memories from then are of people like Francis Dunstan,
Oh, yes.
the
Yes.
Cornishman,
Yes.
Val Beasley,
Yes.
was around, Cliff Studman,
Yes.
Irene.
Yes.
Yes.
Lots of people.
A lot of very nice people, and whom
Yes.
we're still not in constant touch with, but still in touch with.
And it was as a result of a meeting here at Methsock that we went to Africa.
That's
Pauline
right.
Webb came to speak
Yes.
to Methsock,
Mhm.
and as a direct result of that, we felt it was time we thought about going abroad. And we went to the Thomases. The Thomases were very supportive.
Yes.
And
Kingsley Road,
That's
opposite the
right.
hospital, yes.
Yes, yes.
How
Well,
can
throughout the years, you've been able to contribute, haven't you?
Yes, again, it arose from the Oxford connections.
Yes, yes.
Because I was very much involved in both country dancing and Morris dancing in Oxford.
Yes.
And when I came here, joined the Kemps men, who are the local Morris dancing group. And we also got involved, didn't we, with country dancing locally. And we were able to run a number of dances, and still do, of course, here at Park Lane, country dancing. And you,
Yes.
I seem to remember, have on occasions provided a variety of foods as well.
Which I've enjoyed
internationally.
Yes.